composition so far, Orange Esports has a fair amount of crowd control with this Ruby. So Omega are actually going to be drafting up the Tamas here. Is that going in the jungle?
Looks like it.
You know what I want to see? I just want to see that Cho go to the jungle. You see that? Right?
You don't want to see it, trust me. I mean, you'd be surprised, right? So let's see how that plays out. Yeah, you're a little surprised there. But I got to ask you, Mirko, which one are you feeling more? Which draft?
Well, I like crazy, and both of the drafts are equally crazy in my opinion, right? But I have to go for the flashier one here. I saw the Moskov yesterday. It didn't work in the end, but started off really well. I think they learned from the mistakes that they made yesterday.
All they really need is for Valenz to not jump in 1v5 in that late game. Let's see if the lessons of yesterday will be the improvements of today, as Smart Omega want to make use of their signature adaptability to be able to take this first game momentum away from Orange Esports and secure themselves a solid start to the series.
Well, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, right? Because we can talk about the drafts here. Now that we have pretty much two, like you said, weird drafts, right?
Oh,
and it's going to be interesting, especially I feel like this is a second chance for Valenz because, man, he was playing the Moskov out of his mind. And then at the same time, he just made those mistakes. So again, this could be the redemption arc that he's looking for.
It was really weird, right? Because again, 200 IQ went to average IQ real quick yesterday when they got the initial good play on Mannn, another Filipino team. And again, yeah, you're right. This is his redemption arc, right? This is literally his redemption arc. If he's able to do it again, this time against Kelra, what many believe is the best gold lane player, perhaps the best player in Southeast Asia, especially with the accolades. Still Kings of the Sea.
Kings of the Sea indeed. And, you know, Sadafa, I'm going to ask you a question about Smart Omega this time, and not always Orange Esports. So, how are you feeling about their draft? It's a little bit weird, but how's it going to match up against what is, especially the Kadita and Moskov, right? We're not used to seeing that. So, Smart Omega, on the other hand, how do you feel about the draft? How do they work around that early aggression that's going to be thrown at them?
Well, what I think about Smart Omega's draft is that actually it is very scary. Yes, in comparison to Orange Esports, they're going to be lacking a little bit of that early game aggression, but their heroes are all capable of winning out the lane solo 1v1s, which means that it's going to come down very heavily to how Minnn and Garyy play that early game. Chaknu, we already know that he's able to rotate around and match enemy roamers in their momentum. As long as he controls that, doesn't allow Garyy to get that easy start he's looking for, then this is actually going to scale up very well towards that mid game where these big ultimates from Smart Omega are really going to start taking over.
Yeah, I feel like one of the, again, for the team for Orange Esports, they really have to check the boxes here of Smart Omega. You can't just focus on one area, and you have to be conscious of every single player at this point, especially the later the game goes. So, with this hyper-aggressive kind of draft that they went with for Orange Esports, they could just be looking to end this before Smart Omega even gets to those timers.
Well, there's another fan, Smart Omega, right?
There you
go. You know what? While we're on that point, I want to test something out. We've given our opinions on the draft, right? What about the crowd here, all right? So I want you guys to cheer when I say the name of the team, all right? Who do you think has the better draft? Orange?
There it is.
All right, and then we'll start with Omega now. We'll go with Omega too.
Yeah.
Omega! All right, more
Okay.
for Orange here. Not surprised, right?
Not surprised. I mean, we are in the home turf, the home court area for Orange Esports. I mean, again, this is coming down to these two distinct play styles, right? And I feel like Orange Esports is really highlighting around there. So again, I want to see them be able to end this game before the Omega timers. For those that aren't familiar, Omega timers is around the 18-minute mark.
Pretty late.
Yeah, it's pretty late, right? And again, they love the late game. So we are going to see a head-to-head here between these two. We have Mannn and Etu Max Sadafa. How's that matchup looking?
Well, if we look at the statistics here, it is actually pretty even. Although Etu Max will have the advantage in average KDA and GPM, Mannn actually has a higher kill participation. And in this way, you can immediately see the way that these two players will play. Mannn, typically similar to Valenz, in fact, will be a little more aggressive despite playing on squishier mage heroes. He wants to go up, he wants to dish out the damage, he wants to get kills, even if that means he might be putting himself a bit out of position. In comparison, Air 2 Max is going to be a little more stable, wants to stand back. He will jump in front to set up those kills, especially when he's playing on heroes like the Julian, but otherwise his positioning will be a lot safer in comparison.
You know, the other thing, when we're talking about matchups here, right, with especially Garyy and Raizen, I feel like they both like to take a certain amount of risk in their playstyles. Now, the thing about Garyy, right, he really likes to bring different heroes to each matches. We've seen him, again, play, I think, 8 or 9 different heroes. And at the same time, I'm wondering how this matchup is. This is a pure comfort pick for him, the Fanny. So far from what we've seen from the performance of Fannies throughout the tournament is actually pretty stellar, right? So now you have to worry about that, right? If you're in Raizen's shoes, how, and maybe this is exactly why he picked, right, what he did for the jungle, that Thamus pick. So maybe this is, again, let's get to the late game, right? Because we already know Orange Esports, especially Garyy, who is a main focus here, will be starting things off in the jungle. How, Mirko, does Smart Omega have to handle that jungle pressure?
Oh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be rough as well, because considering that Omega have actually drafted that, well, they picked the Yi first pick, right? So basically, it was out there for Orange to counter, and that they did exactly that. They want that mid control, especially with that Fanny first pick. They're trying to get that early game aggression. Now, how does Omega do? How does Omega try to stabilize in that early game? You really just can't unless you trade, right? If you go straight at it, it's going to be the same thing that happened yesterday. RSGPH in that early game up against Garyy with the Fanny, it's just really rough for them because they just keep on going for the same objectives. Garyy wanted to go for the enemy orange buff. They wanted to go for their own orange buff. They clashed there, and obviously, level 1, level 2, you know who's going to win that matchup. What Omega needs to do is look for those trades, and they're really good at this, right? The Omega timer, how do they do this? They just stall the game for so long. They let turrets be taken. They let those neutral objectives go as well. Sometimes Raizen just tries to steal it, but again, they never commit to any fights until Kelra gets that power spike. Once he does, that's the switch that they need to pull.
Speaking of the power spikes, right, Beatrix, when is that power spike really for Beatrix?
For me, for me in ranked, it's when I get the first kill. No, I'm joking, but for here, on stage, I feel like the safest power spike for Beatrix has to be when he gets the BOD. Heptases as well. That's when you actually have the power to shock people, right? With the Blade of Heptases, Wesker, Flicker combo, that's gonna be crazy. With the Snipe as well. That's the first power spike.
So is the second power spike 2 BODs? we've seen that pop up once.
I want to see 5 BODs and boots, you know?
Well,
Why not 6 boots?
Why not 6 boots? And there you go, Raizen popping on the screen. Like we were just talking about the jungles here, right? We can see he is the highest kill participation jungler right now in the tournament, 72%. As you mentioned, loves to just kind of focus. This is the thing, the dynamic has changed for a lot of these junglers where they were so flashy, and even when they play assassins, right? They're so flashy, they love to find those kills, but now also pushing the map, finding space, and still getting those team fights. How's that looking, Stafa?
I think nowadays with this meta, like you mentioned, it does seem like the jungle position is being used more as support, as utility to set up time for the mage or the marksman to really get scaled up. And out of all the junglers here at MSC, I do feel like Raizen is perhaps the player that adapts to this sort of gameplay style the most effectively, because he has always played that sort of utility jungler role. He creates space, he opens up the map, he finds information. If he can get a kill, yes, he will go for it, but otherwise, if they can feed farm into Kelra, that is what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, I think every team, as much as possible would love to feed farm into their gold laners as much as possible. And again, that's why so much focus has to be on shutting down those gold laners, and it really just starts within the jungle. That's, again, why we highlighted Garyy versus Raizen, because that tempo will be set there. And honestly, the favor goes in the hands of Orange Esports just again because Gary's going to be flying around, zipping around on that Fanny, and we'll have to see, Smart Omega, if they can actually contest that, deal with that kind of pressure. But here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, now welcome to the Land of Dawn, game number 1, Orange Esports versus Omega.
Ooh, all right, let's get straight into it here. Orange Esports, again, with this aggression, they just want to really play with it. Minnn already just playing it really aggressive, trying to open up the map, trying to see where they start. But Chaknu doing the same thing in the enemy jungle.
Yep, that's going to be quite rough for Garyy, but this is a Cho. While he does have a strong level 1, once he uses up Jeet Kune Do, there's not much more he can do. And ideally in this situation, you want to force the enemy jungler to use their retribution. With this pickup, Chaknu is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, we've seen Chaknu too play these Cho picks, and either it works out really well for him or he kind of gets set back here. But at the same time, you kind of always have the combination available to you, the flicker, the way of the dragon. It's pretty deadly, especially at any point in the game. I wouldn't say it's as better than the Franco combinations, especially with the flicker, but you know, it's still there. Also, I want to take a look at Mannn, right? He is playing this Kadita, which so far we've seen pretty much paired with the Johnson. Does that fall off as the game goes on without the Johnson being there? Or do the items, the magic resist, really kind of counter that play?
We saw a whole lot of this Kadita in Indonesia, right? So it really depends on how he plays the Kadita, because usually in Indonesia we see it as a roamer for most part, right? But this time it's being played actually as the mage in the middle with the setup from Ruby. Maybe I think it's going to scale up really well. I feel like, but it is very dependent on how he performs in that early stage. If he gets a lot of kills, it's going to be all right in the mid game, but she does fall off on this Kadita.
Yeah, burst damage.
That is kind of the problem there with Kadita, though. Yes, the mage will scale very well into the late game, but why don't you see it picked up in that mid position as much as heroes like the Xavier, as much as Eve, as much as Lilia? It is simply because Kadita is a burst mage. No matter how much you scale up, once you use her cooldowns, once you use her ultimate, there's nothing left. You're just looking at a mage auto-attacking. That is not ideal. Yes, you can kill one core member in the late game, but you're also squishy. You can't necessarily guarantee that as compared to a mage that can just stand back and pelt enemies with magic damage from afar.
Again, I think that's pretty much the game plan here, right? When you have the Kadita at mid, it's go find the Eve, stop that perimeter being set up with the real world manipulation, and just try to burst someone down. But a lot of it, again, is reliant on that burst. You have a little bit of CC as well, but Smart Omega, just if they can play around that, if they can avoid that kind of burst and they can hold on to that Eve setup, that's the hard part to work around for Orange Esports. But again, early game, I mean, we can't wait to see it here on the desk, right? We can't see it because we can conceptualize, we can contemplate as much as possible, but really, until we get to see the gameplay come out, Orange Esports come swinging, that's the best case scenario for them.
There's just one thing to note if you're Orange Esports, right? How do you tackle that early game? Because yes, you want to just go guns blazing, you don't want to be gun shy, but looking at how Omega has been playing just the past 2 minutes, it's interesting because they're going for the aggression as well. Chaknu especially, he's just trying to nullify all that early game advantage that Orange has by putting the pin down on Fanny, on Garyy in his own jungle. Now, if he's able to do this consistently, I feel like that the power spike that Omega needs to reach might just be in the mid game. That might just be it. Or, again, this is the matchup that we need to highlight. Valenz up against Kelra. Moskov, in my opinion, does have a slight advantage when it comes to that laning because of the kill pressure that he has and obviously the clearing, right? Or in the early stage,
yeah.
Beatrix does kind of suffer with that after the nerfs onto the Nibiru. So you really just rely on the Renner to clear out the waves. But again, because of that, Moskov will have kill pressure and wave pressure. Then they can just start looking for dives over there. Do they just swap Kelra onto the XP lane when that happens? Or does Kelra just play the weak side? Because we've seen Omega don't really do well when Kelra falls behind.
I think if they wanted to, they can absolutely swap that lane, and if they find themselves in a situation where Kelra is being punished by the gold lane, they definitely should, especially since their opponent in the EXP is an Esmeralda. But it does sound like we're going to be needing a bit of a potential redraft here. Seems like a technical error has occurred behind the scenes, so we hope that you will be patient with us, ladies and gentlemen, as we work to resolve this issue.
You're a gentleman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that, you know, we
too, man.
we talked about those drafts there and now, you know, hey, that's okay. We might have a redraft. We're not sure exactly yet if we're going to have the same picks or not, right? So let's take a look at the matchup here, the head-to-head between these two players now. We have Born and Renzio. Mirko, how's that looking?
Man, when I asked Leo backstage in M3, right? Why is it not Edward Pacquiao? And he's like, because it's Renzio's name. That's Renzio Pacquiao, bro. Right? That's what they call him when he uses the Paquito.
Yeah, the Paquito.
So I'm just kind of disappointed, man. I want that Paquito to come out, honestly. But no, obviously, he's just such a solid XP laner. Up against Born, same thing here, but I do feel like Renzio has had the better tournament so far, right? Born has played that weak side for the most part, and that's why these statistics, especially the average KDA, shows that is far below Renzio.
I mean, if you think about XP lane matchups, most people are like, how do you, let's say, evaluate a good XP laner? What makes a good XP laner, Sadafa?
I think we can use that question as a way to kind of look at the XP lane as a whole in this meta, right? This is the tank meta. A lot of people want to play with durable heroes, and that's why you kind of see the EXP laner as something more of a secondary tank nowadays, jumping into the backline, split pushing, splitting up the fight. What determines how good an EXP laner is nowadays is how much attention they can draw away from the rest of their team.
So I'm happy to say, we don't have to go through a redraft after talking extensively about those lineups. So early aggression already going to be showing here from Orange Esports. Smart Omega might be looking for a counterplay right here. Look at the focus here in the lane of Renzio. 4 members of Orange Esports going to crash down, not letting him breathe. First blood going over Orange Esports.
And this is what we expected from Orange Esports. Just go guns blazing from the start, and just like that, they take the entirety almost of that turret shield gold, right? Already down to a quarter of HP. This is going to be huge, and it's interesting because they play their own weak side of the map. That is a losing matchup. Dairoth and Esmeralda is now, it's all a setup for the turtle.
It's quite unusual. You would think they'd go for Kelra's lane instead, but now the turtle is going to be contested by both these teams.
Oh man, that's actually going to be secured here by Omega, but they turn things around. They find Garyy, so they get a pick off. Plus the objective, another make it 3 kills for Smart Omega. Born goes down as well. 4 members dropping this early on.
Oh, that's just a disaster there for Orange. Again, they wasted a lot of resources on getting the kill and a lot of that turret gold. Turret gold gives you more gold, right, in that early stage. But again, they tried to force the turtle with the setup, knowing that Raizen was down. Did not work out, considering that Raizen, very low death timers. I mean, Renzio.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a bit too aggressive of them, but now they're going to be catching out Chaknu here with a full Rough Waves combo. As Chaknu tries to flicker backwards for the combo, but gets caught out himself. Mannn managing to heal up completely with the passive escapes from the hands of Omega. As now down here, Renzio nearly takes out Born.
So nice little response there from Orange Esports. I mean, they have to find those picks, right? At the same time, you want to make sure Chaknu is just not having free roam himself to find the setups here. So good response, but still, Smart Omega with a minor gold lead right now.
Now it's very, very risky when you're talking about Orange because Garyy wants to make these aggressive plays into Raizen's jungle, but with Omega already getting that level 4 power spike on Chaknu, it's going to be really hard for him to do so. Look, he sees Chaknu missing in lane, and instantly what he does is back off. We can also take a look at the emblems here for both of the teams. Garyy, we mentioned this yesterday, no high and dry still with that Demon Slayer emblem.
I think it's partly because Demon Slayer nowadays is just too important, but Renzio in a lot of danger here.
Oh, Gary's gonna find this kill here. He's bobbing, he's weaving, he gets the kill. Renzio's taken out with the response now. Raizen on top of Mannn. Can't escape this one. Now it's gonna be a one-on-one in the bottom lane, but he's gonna reset. He should be fine. Finding a kill for himself.
It gets even worse and worse currently, right? In that early stage, Orange, that's who needs to get that pressure because a lot of these heroes actually, they fall off in that late game. When compared to Omega, they're already having that strong side in both sides now because of Dairoth winning that matchup and obviously Beatrix with that early kill. Kelra, not even with any help in that first stage. It's just a solo kill.
Execution difficulty is something we have to talk about here because typically when you have a draft that's easier to play, you will have an easier time. And Orange Esports have a lot of pressure on this lineup to make something happen before we hit that mid game. And right now they are already behind against Omega. Raizen is already a monster on this Thamus.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, Thamus jungle. Having those 3 early kills here is going to be tough to deal with. Little pull there. Chaknu should be fine, though. Max there to back him up as well. So Orange Esports, what we thought was going to be that, hold on, the bottom lane once again. Garyy looking for a pick here. Born going to be in trouble. Renzio can't grab the kill. Just 2 versus 1. He's still alive. Oh, he goes in on board. Grabs that one before Garyy shuts him down. Now Chaknu being the focus here. Valenz falls, though. They grab a kill, and there's going to be another one. Chaknu finally going down. So there's just too much action across the map right now.
Again, this is what we mentioned. Orange, they play toward that weak side of the map that they know Born, he will lose in that matchup against a Dairoth. Renzio, holy, that was beautiful. Just spacing really, really perfect there in that fight to catch Reborn off guard and to take him down. That was a trade that was just not worth it for Orange.
I just think Thorn stayed a bit too long, a little bit of overconfidence there, thinking that they would be able to 2v1 him. If he just walked out and allowed Garyy to take control of that fight, I think he would have been able to make that trade a lot more favorable. But we're already seeing Omega out, just basically controlling the map as compared to Orange Esports, and that's not good because Orange are the ones that need to be controlling this early game momentum or they will fall off.
Yeah, like you guys said, right? They need to kind of control this early game, but right now it's kind of the opposite. Oh, hold on, Kelra going to be focused on, but remembers Garyy flexing on him, finds the kill on Kelra.
See, this is what we expect from Orange. They need to play for the Moscow lane because again, Moscow does really well when he starts to snowball. The fact that they've been playing that bottom side and leaving Valenz all alone has actually given the lead over to Omega in this early stage. Finally get the turret down up top, and now they start pushing pressure.
Garyy tries to go in with that turtle field, but it's just a little bit too late here. So Omega is going to continue taking objectives away. And now we can see a movement from Omega. They realize Valenz might be pushed up a little bit far. Chaknu, he's looking for it, but it gets shoved back.
Yeah, Chaknu not going to be able to find that one just yet. He knows that he has backup. Man was luckily there. Meanwhile, Minnn coming to join the party too. They're focusing on the mid turret, so they grab that one. So Garyy should save here. Finally, Renzio decides to go in. There's the dive, and Real comes down. They have the CC's potential. No damage going to come out just yet. They're happy with that. Let's see if they decide to play this one out. Both teams losing their tier 1 turrets.
It's very passive aggressive. When we're talking about Omega here, they are playing really passive aggressive. What does that mean? It means that they don't really pull the trigger out often. They try to just use the stall out game. Even here, they know the trigger on Garyy all along. Chaknu just buying time. They're going for the
Yeah, actually go that out. The flicker comes in. They're knocked down. They don't need it. Horn balls here. Smart Omega finding one jungle.
Like we do highlight a little bit about saying that they're holding that trigger because some have observed about just like Filipino teams, especially in general, they only take fights when they know they can take the fight. The opponent is taking the fight and trying to engage, and they realize we're not ready for this. Instantly back off. The decision making is so quick. They know exactly which engagement they should go for and which they should avoid.
discipline.
Yeah. Check out their goal team, right? Valenz. He's there. So if you buy one more time, and maybe get to the point where the Moscow is really hurting, he's going to be concerned. He could look for those setups, and that's what he's going to need to do. So this is a good chance for Valenz to continue to farm up.
It's going to be really tough right now because if he does want to go farm, he has to with a crossman playing like this currently, and that leaves the objective to be fully opened up for the side of Omega. They just go at it right here with Raizen using the map in the jungle as well. That's just so much pressure. He's so tanky. He's the one opening up that map, and he won't really be punished by it. Because Orange commit onto him, that's a free fight for M2 is on the sleeve. We're going to see some Orange Chaknu.
Oh, Chaknu, the way the Dragon's coming here on Minnn, man, and there's the one coming down to cancel it. They're focusing on him. Born does a great job. Here comes Garyy, looking for another kill. Killing spree over Garyy. Happy with that. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade right now. Another one, but Valenz finds Kelra.
That was the snipe. That was the Moscow ult there, finding Kelra in the base. I didn't know we would get to see that today, but I am glad that we got from this such advantage. Orange Esports actually coming out on top there, despite the fact that one actually got taken out a lot quicker than I would have expected. That Wesker shot, and now they're contesting this board.
Chaknu look for it. He's trying to stall him out, but it's secured here by Orange Esports. Now Renzio finding his target. There he falls. Can they grab another kill? Renzio's still up. Orange Esports happy with that one.
Whoa, okay, wait. It feels like they swapped places, right? Omega got the early game and Orange, they flipped the switch. Orange, out of nowhere, off the back of Valenz's play. Did you see that? Yeah, Valenz, this guy, we mentioned that with that early game disadvantage, might just be a non-factor, but it turns out with one fight, that positioning was just stretched. The fact that he went on to N2 Max forced him to back up and forced him to use the real-world manipulation late. That caused Orange Esports to take control of the fight.
Yeah. Right now, let's take a look at the items, Sudaf. After that nice victory there for Orange Esports.
And we can see so far Valenz already completing 3 items on his side. Kelra only having 2, but I don't think their goal is too far apart, since obviously that BOD is going to be a lot more expensive in comparison. Garyy is still going for full damage with the Blade of the Hephaestus right into the Malefic Roar, not even going for defensive options so far. And Raizen with the Corrosion Strike, with the Corrosion Strikes and the Curse Helmet, the Sheena Shield as well. So the Hammers is going to be very difficult for people to pick off.
Yeah, look at Valenz doing work in the bottom lane, so he's going to grab that turret. You know, Smart Omega's going to have to handle the Lord, but right now, Orange Esports doing a great job opening up the map.
At this point, right, Omega, they might have to do the same thing. They need to revert to their initial initiative. They can't control the game anymore because, look, map pressure, just not for them anymore. Orange Esports will be the ones to push the pace, and they're currently doing a really good job, right? They've learned from yesterday. We see it here as they're using Minnn to zone people off the turret, and there you go.
He's going to find Chaknu here, but he should be fine. They're going to work on the turret. Yeah, like you said, you use that utility you have. Use Mannn, use the conceal place to find those moments for you to set up.
I'm just impressed at how quickly this game has turned around. It's kind of unexplainable that Orange Esports suddenly have so much map control when they were losing out in that early game, which is completely opposite to what we were expecting when we saw these drafts completed. With that early lead they had, Omega should be the ones in control. And if we look at the damage dealt, Renzio and Raizen are right up there, but Valenz not too far behind. I think this Moskov has really been a determining factor.
You can really feel right now that Chaknu, he's hungry for something. He wants to look for that crazy play that can really flip the game over back to their side, because he's been going for a lot of these flashy plays, but unfortunately it hasn't really worked out here because of that follow-up being delayed by Orange Esports. Chaknu, if he gets just one good kick onto Valenz, which I think he's going for right now, he's aiming for, looking for, it might just be another turnaround. Valenz, will he give that position up like yesterday is the question.
You notice he's playing a lot more careful today.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the redemption arc of Valenz, right? And he's actually, this game so far, he's doing a great job being mindful of his positioning. So, again, he's just got to keep up with that. They have the 5K gold lead right now, and they could set up for this Lord pretty confidently. Chaknu, once again, trying to find some vision here.
Talking about the drafts at this point in time, Omega have heroes that requires them to kind of group around to protect. In comparison, Orange Esports, most of their heroes have a way in and out of fights individually, allowing them to spread their influence over the map a lot more comfortably. And that's why you're seeing Chaknu having difficulty finding these catches, because he doesn't really know who to go for. But now the Lord is going to be between both teams.
Chaknu literally looking for Valenz here. Not going to be able to find him just yet. Gets knocked in. He should be fine. Real World coming down. Lord's still up though. It's going to be worked on by Raizen. He secures that one. Born's going to be in trouble here. Oh, Garyy gets taken down. Man trying to find a setup. Not going to be able to get it here as he's focused again. Falling for Orange Esports. Smart Omega coming out on top of that one.
Chaknu was just really good on that. He initiated it, enabled that real world manipulation to come through, and he instantly he stayed where Kelra was because he noticed something.
Valenz popping off. He finds a kill on Chaknu. Can he turn it around? That's going to be a double kill. And 3 members of Smart Omega fall. Raizen's going to be chased here by a Born. It's going to be a 1-on-1 here. Does he have the potential to get the kill here? Falling Star Moon should be up in just a little bit. Raizen trying to escape. Falling Star Moon on top of Raizen. It's a 1 versus a 1. Meanwhile, look at the mid lane being pushed down.
Wait, they could go for it here.
They could.
Valenz, again, the redemption arc. There you go to fight in
mid lane.
Oh, they
get the kill.
Kelra nearly getting taken out. The Spear of Destruction just barely missing him, but Valenz got taken very low as well. So Kelra alone is actually able to defend that base against the push from Orange. And although Raizen got taken out, he bought a lot of time against Born. We can have a look once again in the replay.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of dissect here. This replay obviously presented to you by TikTok, but again, I was just mentioning how good Chaknu played earlier before this, but Valenz, you mentioned this safer, efficient Moskov playing in front to back, not really split pushing anymore, and you can see the difference. It's just massive for Orange, even with a man disadvantage with the Lord there. The damage just comes through from Moskov.
Yeah, they have to, like, Smart Omega needs to be very conscious of Valenz now, because even with that Inspire, the damage is insane, especially if you can find the space. Check out the items, Sadafa.
Yeah, we can see that Haas Claw's final pick up by Valenz. We're definitely seeing a lot more marksmen go for those lifesteal items as the final pickup over Immortality, just because if you pop Immortality, that usually means you're gonna die a second time anyway, so having a little more survivability works out in their favor. And right now, this Moskov is truly a threat for Smart Omega.
I don't know about that full offensive build though, right? Like even the boots, it's, oh man, it's just attack speed. We have no defensive items. Technically you can say that the Haas Claws is some lifesteal, but I don't know about that. Again, you can see the difference. Tough boots already, but Omega looking for something. Valenz!
Oh, Valenz gonna get spotted out here. Oh, Chaknu gets shut down. This is gonna be a mega kill. Renzio finding Valenz though. Look at Born trying to find one. Gets the falling star moon off. Finds a kill for Mannn, and they're falling apart here. It's gonna be a 1-for-2 trade right now. Raizen now finding another target, and now Smart Omega turning this one around. Kelra still in the back lane. Man, Minnn, you're in trouble. You gotta get out.
Oh, that was beautiful again by Omega. This is the initiation that we wanted, and guess what? The clock is ticking. 16 minutes in, that Omega timer, that 18-minute power spike might just come to bite Orange Esports now. With Born and Valenz down, it's Omega actually trying to force the Lord here, and I'm pretty sure they can do it. It really just comes down to the Retribution battle. Doesn't need it.
Doesn't need it. Oh, man, unfortunate there. That's going to be a killing spree now for Kelra. This is going to be now for Orange Esports to defend. The gold favor going back to Smart Omega. They grab that Lord. Orange Esports is still in this.
Yeah, right before that Lord pickup, we saw Kelra also finish his Haas Claws as well. So the similar sort of durability is going to apply for Kelra now on top of Valenz. And we saw in that last fight, being able to pick off the Moskov first really crippled Orange Esports' fighting potential, because having this Kadita as their mid laner means they only have one source of consistent damage.
All right, now Valenz going to be focused on. He grabs a kill here on Raizen, but at the cost of his own life here. So it's a 1-for-1 trade. Valenz, you got to be very careful of those moments right now. Also, Garyy in the top lane, trying to push that out a little bit. Meanwhile, mid lane, Lord's still going to be up. They should be fine to actually defend this, but Smart Omega might look for a play here too.
The only consistent damage that they have that can really take down this Lord is Valenz, but real world inflation now just often used. Orange Esports forced to be zoned back to his own turret, but they still can defend here, so technically Valenz dying was all right. They still are able to defend that base turret in the mid lane.
I don't know if it was really worth it for Orange Esports, though. I saw what they were doing with Garyy split pushing up the top lane. They thought that with Born and Minnn, they would be able to hold the Lord in place long enough, but they definitely needed a little bit more damage, because all Omega needed to do was send Chaknu to deal with it.
Chaknu going to be the focus here. He's going to get all the CC in the world. Should still be fine, though. Has the Immortality, too, and the teammates. So Orange Esports trying to find a moment here. Valenz really has to be careful. Going to go ahead and just stay at the bottom lane.
This is it here. Look at Kelra, right? He's just waiting for a moment. He goes onto the orange buff. Okay, he just backs up, knowing that Orange Esports can capitalize on that overextension. But I feel like he was also looking for Valenz, right? He was waiting there for quite a long time, trying to bait Valenz to take that orange buff, because he had that shotgun out as well. But now, the tides have shifted again. Back to Omega, who now have that map pressure. With the Lord coming up once again, even without map pressure, they've been able to secure more neutral objectives. With map pressure, how does that go? Did they get a nerf with map pressure?
I don't really think so here. They're definitely in control of the game right now and very comfortable alongside it. In terms of gold right now, Valenz is obviously going to be sitting at the top, but that's also a lot of pressure on him because, as we mentioned before, he is the only source of consistent late game DPS on Orange Esports, which means that this young shot caller here is going to have a very tricky time maintaining that trigger discipline so that he does not put himself out of position. Something difficult to do because Moskov's attack range is going to be a little bit shorter than other marksmen.
Oh, look at that though. Look at Mannn.
Yeah, he's looking for the setup here, right? This is literally the major version of having a Beatrix, right? You're just waiting for that moment. But meanwhile, Kelra is actually in the middle. They're going to look for a target here. Born taking quite a bit of damage, should be fine. Gary's still on the top side though. Mannn also waiting patiently in that bush. Smart Omega is going to go ahead and work on this Lord. Not sure if they want to commit. There's the conceal play. Minnn zoning them back. Man, got to be careful here too. He's still being waiting patiently. 2 max, there you go! no! They find Etu Max, taking him down. Mega kill going over to Kelra, though. Now they're trying to turn this one around. Garyy is here. Can he get the damage out? They're just way too tanky. Minnn gonna get knocked up. Way the Dragon finds him. Immortality's gonna be popped. Kelra looking for the cleanup. There's the Immortality. Now Mannn has to run for his life. Monster kill for Kelra.
Oh, Valenz again, right? You just have to look at it. The positioning here just wasn't on point. He was just way too front there. He knows that Mannn got a very good initial fight onto Itomax, very good pickoff, but I don't think that was supposed to happen, right? He was just supposed to wait in the back lines, help with the front to back, because now it feels like Omega are going to get the Lord for free. Once again, 21 minutes in will mean that this is an evolved Lord, but at least Orange, they find compensation here by taking down the base turret up top.
That's a nice trade from Garyy, but that's the trigger discipline we were talking about here. Valenz jumping the gun just a little bit, got excited when they saw that E2 Max got picked off in the back line, put himself out of position. I don't really know why he's trying to be that offensive. He needs to take some time. There is no reason for the Moskov to ever be behind the Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to positioning, right? So they have to deal with this Lord. It should be okay. They have Valenz still left alive. He's going to want to be careful, though, because Raizen and the rest of the boys in Smart Omega mode might be looking for a setup here. Mannn waiting patiently. Chaknu knows he's there, checks the bush. Lord should go down here in just a second. Meanwhile, the rest of the team coming up to the mid lane, holding on to this mid turret with just a sliver of HP. Neither team wants to give this a go yet. Gary's going to take quite a bit of damage, has to respect Kelra as well. Turret finally going down, a base for Orange Esports cracked open.
This was so good when you have the Beatrix in the late game, right? The flexibility that she offers with 2 guns here, technically 4 guns. She can just keep on swapping. They have Poke, they have the Siege, and if Orange Esports look for a fight, force that dive, that Wesker is always going to come in handy. And at this point, it's just going to be really hard for them to find Kelra on these engages. He has the Immortality. He still hasn't used his Flicker for the past, like, 6 minutes in this game. He's untouchable at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. I mean, look at the damage coming out from Kelra. Mann's going to feel that one. They're going to work on the bottom here. Garyy trying to keep them at bay. Minnn, you got to be careful here. Falling Star Moon's going to be committed. Raizen zoning them out as much as possible. No one wants to commit just yet. Turret's still going to be up at the bottom.
Right now, Orange Esports has to play very safe. We saw in that siege that Valenz is standing very far behind, waiting for his team to engage, which is why Minnn tried to flicker forward. Right now, they're trying to catch out the members of Omega, but the positioning is so on point. Like you guys mentioned, Kelra really not needing to use that flicker too much. He only just had to use it right before this, and that is because Omega, their front to back right now is so solid.
Now it's a good resource, though, that they have been able to burn out, right? Sure, Minnn was forced to use his own flicker to pop Kelra's flicker, but still, it's way more worth it. It's Kelra, a gold laner's flicker for the price of a roamer. Now, we take a look at the items once again. We can already see that a lot of blade armors have been built here by both of the teams to respect the marksman. But what I do want to point out is still, look at Valenz's items. He's still going for that all-in or nothing build. Full offense here. He actually sold his shoes for a Malefic Roar to deal more damage instead of maybe an Immortality or a Wind of Nature. So again, when he just gets the better positioning, he goes in when everyone is low just to clean up. It's going to be massive.
Yeah, in the Philippines, we call that barefoot Moskov. There you go.
Barefoot Moskov.
That's
I thought you called it baloots.
Nope,
plane.
Not that.
No?
But
Okay.
yeah, so he gets rid of his boots, right? He's pretty much full damage here, glass cannon, but again, he has to be super careful with the positioning because every Lord that comes up, Chaknu's going to be looking for him, right? They're going to look for that setup, look for that moment. Valenz still chilling in the bottom lane, right? He just wants to kind of put pressure there, forcing Smart Omega to respond to him.
I think I can agree with this build from Valenz, though. Moskov is a hero that is very 100-4-0, but Mannn now out of position. He has to use that rough waves to get away. Chaknu looking for him. Minnn, I don't think he's going to be able to protect him.
That's
so good.
Yeah. Unfortunate positioning there that they punish him for it. Look at Valenz. Valenz still on the top lane. Not sure what he's trying to do. Etumax dropped the real world manipulation. They're going to focus on him. God like Kelra. They're making mistake after mistake, although they do find Etumax. Smart Omega might give this go signal for the Lord, but they're going to push back Orange Esports a little more. Right now, big mistakes coming out from Orange Esports.
Huge mistakes, right? Again, this flips the game back to Omega's favor. They already had map control, and now with them losing Valenz and Mannn, that back line for Omega, they're just going to be safe here. They're not going to be at risk of dying. Garyy, again, he's hit that level where he can't really just dive into that back line without the help of Mannn, without the help of Valenz anymore. The damage has a peak for him. Omega, they're just going to go straight at it. Raizen, not even caring. If Orange put all their resources on him, it's fine. Kelra's here to pick up the scraps.
I feel like Valenz is just trying too hard to take things into his own hands in this game. He thought his team could delay them long enough for him to go in and get some damage done. But if he gets caught out, it's just 2 shots from Kelra and he's instantly taken out of the competition. Orange has been doing a good job so far of delaying things, but the Lord dropping real low.
Gary's going to come here. He's going to try to get the Lord. Lord's still going to be less than half health. Garyy goes deep in, forcing Kelra back. Can he grab the... Okay, Lord's going to go ahead and reset right now. Oh, that's going to be a legendary Kelra. And they go one after another. Chaknu with the Way of the Dragon, forcing the flicker out. Smart Omega looks like they're just baiting Orange Esports to make mistakes.
But this is good from Orange, honestly, right? They were actually able to stop Omega from taking that Lord. At this minute, 26 minutes in, that Lord is massive. It's the evolved Lord that has just been scaling up. Chaknu gets stunned.
Oh, Chaknu, you gotta be careful. He gets, I'm offended. Immortality's gonna be popped. This could be a moment. Grabs the kill here. Can they continue on? Renzio now finding the kill on Valenz. He falls. Minnn, you have to run. And man, not gonna be enough. They follow it up. Immortality gonna be popped here. That's gonna be a kill. Garyy trying to help out, but it's not gonna be enough. Unfortunately, too many cables. Goes down from the Filipino Savage Kelra.
4-1, it's all done at this point. Mannn can't really defend anymore. As Kelra, he just goes straight for the base and they take game number 1.
The similar